This is the Energy Makers Show, featuring the innovators, financiers, and policymakers focused on the global energy demand. Brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And here's your host, Paul Dickerson.
Hi, I'm Paul Dickerson, and welcome to another episode of the Energy Makers Show. My guests today are from the recent Rice Alliance Clean Technology and Energy Venture Forum. First up, David Williams, co-founder and chief operating officer of Clean Engines, a company solving some of those emission problems in Asia. Following that, we visit with Bryan Hassin, CEO of Smart Office Energy Solutions. All that right after this.
Where will the energy come from to move us forward? From natural sources in abundant supply, or perhaps a man-made source? At NRG, we believe innovation will solve our energy needs. That's why NRG is moving away from fossil fuels towards wind, solar, and other sustainable technologies to power the smart grid, the electric car, and our clean energy future. We're using all of our energy to develop more of it.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now, back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Paul Dickerson.
Welcome to another episode of the Energy Makers Show. We have with us today David Williams, co-founder and chief operating officer of Clean Engines, Inc. David, great to have you on the program.
Paul, thank you. Nice to be here.
So tell us about Clean Engines.
Well, Paul, Clean Engines is a company that's geared toward addressing emissions problems in Asia. What a lot of people don't realize is that there are 4 billion people in Asia living in air polluted, so polluted that it's called toxic by the World Health Organization. This would be the equivalent of every man, woman, and child smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And much of this pollution is caused by 2-stroke motorcycle engines or the 3-wheel vehicles called tuk-tuks, like you might see in Bangkok
Sure.
if you've been over there. And a lot of people don't realize there's 100 million of those things running around in Asia. If you do the math, each one of those things is polluting as much as 50 automobiles. So that's 5 billion cars worth of pollution coming off of just those vehicles in Asia.
People talk about, sort of the problem of the coming massive migration of people, say in China, from the countryside into the cities. You're just talking about the people that are there today.
That's correct.
And what's happening. All right, so what is it specifically that you're doing to help with that problem?
Well, we have developed a product that retrofits on these already existing vehicles that reduces the air pollution by 90%.
Wow.
It increases the fuel efficiency by 40%. And then if we convert the drivers also to LPG, like your barbecue grill cooking fuel, which is a very common fuel used in Asia for commercial vehicles. Taxis are already running on LPG, for example. They convert to that, that's typically a 30% cheaper fuel for them, so the operating costs for the drivers go down about 70%, all while they're driving around reducing their tailpipe emissions by 90%.
So is that the primary target market, or are these fleets, the rickshaws in India and some of the others?
Yes, exactly. There's 100 million of the motorcycles and tuk-tuks running around. The commercial vehicles, we've figured there are about 10 million of those. So we'll be specifically targeting those 10 million vehicles that are running around all day, spewing pollutants all day long.
Now, I know you've not only lived but worked in Asia for many years. What's the sales pitch to get these people to make the conversion?
Well, it's interesting. The governments really have a real problem because they know that these things are polluting horribly. If they outlaw them, then they outlaw the means of a low-income wage earner from making a living and feeding his family.
Right.
So with our product, it's a win-win. You hear about people talking of triple bottom line companies, benefiting people, benefiting the planet, also generating a profit. We actually do have a product that benefits people. And these drivers, in effect, are doubling their income when they adapt our product. Sure. It's benefiting the planet. We will reduce the carbon capture equivalent of 1 ton of emissions per vehicle per year, but we can also do this profitably for our investors.
So what challenges do you face in trying to scale the company?
Well, we're looking for some investment now to finalize our commercial development. We have about 5 prototypes on the ground. We have an engines lab based in Malaysia, so our research and development is much cheaper than it might be if we were doing development here in the U.S. And when we can raise that capital, then we'll launch in Metro Manila, where there's about 500,000 of these vehicles, and we'll be able to put some on the ground and start saving some lives.
So with your initial process, will you retrofit 100, 1,000? How with that initial manufacturer? What quantity?
Our first again, we're looking to raise about $2 million. We'll be able to put probably 50,000 units on the ground with that $2 million. And then that will be able to get us into first revenue, and we'll be able to go from there.
Is there any competition?
There is no competition in this space. The closest competition will be new vehicles, but our retrofit cost is about $300. The new vehicle cost is $2,000. Again, most of these are low-income earning drivers, so they don't have the credit worthiness generally to go buy a new vehicle. The vehicle, because of their fuel savings, they're going to double their income. We have microfinance institutions already lined up, ready to provide loans. It's a business in a box for the driver. He goes into a designated mechanic, signs a loan document. Hour and a half later, he's driving around, doubling his income.
An hour and a half. That's
all
it takes. And specifically, what's happening during that hour and a half?
Well, basically, the problem with these engines is that two-stroke technology is horribly inefficient, and it's using unburned air gas mixtures to clear the combustion chamber. Typically 40% of that unburned fuel is going out the tailpipe unused. So we change it from being a carbureted motor to a fuel-injected motor, and we inject the fuel through the top of the cylinder. It's called direct injection. Many American cars, you see the commercials today talking about direct injection. Using the same technology, it's a proven technology, and we're able to save that fuel for the driver and increase their income.
When you say you're looking for the investors, do you focus primarily at working with U.S. investors? Are you looking around the world? I would imagine some of the foundations could care about this. We
hear about social impact investors, and actually we have a couple of social impact investors that are very interested in participating now. Had some discussions with Gates Foundation's group. Most of those are typically situations where the companies may not ever be profitable, but we actually have within 5 years have a spin-out plan or an exit strategy, and actually it's a genuinely profitable company.
David, thank you so much for being on the program.
Paul, thank you so much.
That concludes our discussion with David Williams. We'll be right back with more right after this.
The future is here. You can't see it. It's electric. At NRG, we're providing clean energy and now charging stations to make the electric car a reality. Kinda makes you want a boogie woogie, doesn't it? NRG, moving clean energy forward.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Paul Dickerson.
Welcome back to the Energy Makers Show. My guest now is Bryan Hassin, CEO and founder of Smart Office Energy Solutions. Bryan, good to have you on the show.
Good to be here, Paul.
So tell our audience about all the good things happening at Smart Office Solutions.
So Smart Office Energy Solutions reduces office energy consumption about 25% without having to modify the office building at all. So we get very rapid paybacks, often less than a year, and it opens up the entire energy efficiency market to utility-paying office tenants who can actually take their energy savings with them when they move offices.
No change, 25% savings.
Plug and play.
That's an incredible return on investment. So explain the process. How?
So it's you want to hear a little about the product or about the way we actually get the energy savings?
Let's start with the product.
Okay, so it's a fully integrated solution of hardware, software, and services. So very turnkey. And it's a wireless mesh network of smart circuit monitors like this one that just clamp around the wires in circuit panels. So they give us real-time insights into where and when power is being consumed throughout an office building.
All right, so in the walls, open it up, you see all the wires there, you snap that around.
Just snap it around, no splicing, no rewiring. You can remove it at any time or reconfigure it. Then it's also a wireless mesh network of smart power sockets that not only measure what's plugged into them, but can also control it, setting rules online to shut off power or turn it back on. These devices send data wirelessly back to our cloud software system, and then we present energy management dashboards over the web to your desktop PC, etc. And then for the majority of our clients who don't want to manage that whole system themselves, we provide remote energy management services.
All right, now for some they may hear, all right, smart office, that's a small niche. Clearly it's not. Can you tell us a little bit about the market?
Absolutely. So it turns out that office energy consumption is actually a really huge problem. Worldwide, office owners and tenants spend nearly $300 billion each year on energy, which is their top operational expense, more than $1,000 per employee in an office building. Studies show that nearly 70% of that energy is wasted. It's unnecessary, so there's a huge opportunity for savings. But the vast majority of the market can't adopt what I'll call the traditional solutions, capital-intense, heavy building retrofits.
All right, so clearly $1,000 a person just on energy, 70% of that's wasted. Why aren't all these companies beating down your door saying, all right, let's do this? What are the challenges that you face as a new company trying to enter this market?
So, I mean, the macro market of energy efficiency for large commercial and institutional buildings is relatively mature. It's been developing for the last 30 years, and they have these processes in place of 10, 12-month sales cycles, big, heavy legal contracts. And so in a way, we're somewhat disruptive. But in answer to your question, it frankly hasn't been a challenge. This is my fourth startup, and I've never had an easier time selling something that's just for which the value proposition is so obvious.
All right, so as you're looking to educate your consumers, who's the target? Is it the CEO, the building owner, the business manager? Who do you seek to educate to then sell the product?
So traditionally in this space, it's always been a facilities engineer or kind of chief of engineering for a building. By opening up this market to clients that have traditionally been unserved by the typical solutions, we're able to access and educate different people, usually someone with financial responsibility, someone in the CFO's organization, right. Sometimes with a smaller tenant, maybe it's an office manager, but it's someone who pays, feels the financial pain of an energy bill, is generally unempowered to do anything about it, and we can help them save 25% pretty much immediately.
What's the next step for you, and where do you see the company in 2 or 3 years?
Sure. So we founded the company at the end of 2009. We've raised a couple of small rounds of financing from private investors. And we've really used that to kind of use the prototypes that you just saw right. to prove out the technology, validate the market, validate the business model. Now at this point, we have paying customers. We've worked with some great clients like the Austin Independent School District, Environmental Defense Fund.
Sure.
And so with 21,000 watts already under management, we're now moving to due diligence with a larger investment, and we're hoping to be fully commercial by spring of next year.
Well, Bryan, it's a great story. It's great to see you. Thank you for coming by today. And that concludes another episode of The Energy Makers Show, heard on the radio nationwide and seen right here at TheEnergyMakers.com. I'm Paul Dickerson, and we'll see you next week.